Hello everyone, it's hockeyXchange here, and welcome back to the channel that talks about everyday hockey. In around 2017, I remember getting to witness hockey history. A player named Shane Doan had played his last game in the NHL. He was a longtime member of the Arizona Coyotes, who was also the last member of the original Winnipeg Jets franchise that no longer existed. When the new Winnipeg Jets came back in the league, that got me curious about other teams that used to exist. It came to my surprise about how some of these former teams still had large fan bases. This made me realize that many people who are getting into hockey today will never be able to see these teams in action. One of these moments would have been witnessing players that used to play for them. So, I've done the research and compiled a list of players who had been the last players of NHL Defunct teams. Keep in mind, I couldn't do all NHL teams and decided to look at teams post-expansion era. So, we will be looking at 9 franchises that are no longer in the league. I may do another part looking at the pre-original 6 era, but that will be for another time. And if you like this video and would like to watch more, please consider giving a like and subscribing. So with that, I hope you enjoy the video. The Kansas City Scouts were a team that ended the NHL's first expansion period, founded in 1972. They began play in 1974, only lasted 2 years, and didn't have any success on the ice. In their entire existence, they had a record of 27 wins, 110 losses, and 23 ties, and kinda explains why it didn't work out so well and why nobody remembers them. But some hockey fans may be familiar with this name. Wilf Paymont is the franchise's first pick, going second overall, and was considered to be one of the toughest players from the 70s and the 80s. He would be the first Kansas City Scout to score their first goal at their first home game. He would play for both seasons of the Scouts' entire existence, scoring 47 goals and 35 assists in 2 seasons, which isn't bad for an upcoming star, but the team surrounding him didn't achieve any success. He would continue with the franchise when they moved to become the Colorado Rockies, where he would maintain above a point per game throughout 3.5 years until he was traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs, where he would score his best season, being a 40-goal scorer for the second time and scoring an all-time high 97 points. He would only stay with the Leafs for 2.5 years when he was traded again, this time to the Quebec Nordiques, where he would spend most of his time there. He was known for his talent on the ice, but also was a very controversial player, often starting fights, and was a trash talker due to the frustration in losing on the ice, which made him very liable on the team, even getting suspended for 15 games, instigating a fight that had gone too far. This led to many teams trading him only a few seasons, leading him to becoming a journeyman. He would continue his journey with other franchises up until his last season when he played with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and on January 10th, 1988, he would play his last game in the NHL, becoming the last player in history to have ever played for the Kansas City Scouts. The California Golden Seals were a part of 6 teams that were added to the league as part of the 1967 NHL expansion. Unfortunately, they were a victim of an expansion team that lacked player depth and superstars and poor management, with the biggest regret trading away the first overall pick that ended up being Guy Lafleur. You know, just a player who went to have a Hall of Fame career with over 1,300 points, being one of the biggest hockey names in the 70s, a nobody. Once relocated to Cleveland as the Barons, they pretty much remained the same and declined, lasting only 2 years until they merged with another struggling franchise, which were the Minnesota North Stars. Dennis Maruk was often forgotten as a 50 and 60 goal scorer during his prime, but he also started out as a California Golden Seals pick, 21st overall, and debuted during the final year of the Golden Seals' existence, producing 62 points and was a Calder finalist. He would spend the next few years in Cleveland scoring nearly a point per game until the merge with the North Stars, playing only 2 games in their first year with Minnesota, but was traded to the Washington Capitals, scoring an all-time high 90 points that season. During his prime, he would rack up 431 points in 343 games, along with the season where he had an all-time high 60 goals and 136 points, placing him 4th in league scoring that year. He would be part of Capitals history where he helped them make the playoffs for the first time the year after, but then was traded back to the North Stars. He would finish his later years with the team and play his last game on February 15, 1989, as the last member of both the California Seals and the Cleveland Barons. The Atlanta Flames were a franchise founded in 1971 as part of the NHL's conflict with the rival World Hockey Association. The team had middling success but couldn't get out of the first round. It also didn't help that attendance for the Flames were very poor throughout their time in Atlanta, with an average of around 10,000 in a 15,000-seat stadium every year. Under those circumstances, the Atlanta Flames ownership would find another owner in Calgary, where they would become the Calgary Flames. Kent Nilsson, or the original Magic Man, was a known superstar in the WHA and was required by the Atlanta Flames once the WHA merged into the NHL. He played in the final season with the Atlanta Flames, scoring 40 goals and 91 points before the relocation to Calgary. He would set an all-time record in points in a season with 131 points and remains a Calgary Flames record to this day. Not even Johnny Gaudreau, who played this past season, came close to those numbers. He was known to his opponents as one of the most skilled puck handlers during his era. He would continue to play with the Flames franchise for 5 years, scoring another 100-point season and remaining above a point per game until 1985. In 1986, he would depart the Flames to join the Minnesota North Stars for a season and a half. He would then be traded to the Edmonton Oilers and became a huge contributor to the team, going on a deep playoff run and even winning the Stanley Cup. Still producing at a successful rate, he would decide to depart from the NHL to play back in his home country in Europe, oddly at the young age of just 30 years old. On the surface, he looked like a great player who had above a point per game in his career, even when Gretzky once said that,
"Skill-wise, he might have been the most skilled hockey player I ever saw in my entire career."
So what happened? There was a lot of criticism from his play during his prime years, both from Flames media and his team, and couldn't get his team past the first 2 rounds when in the playoffs. Scoring less than a point per game during the playoffs didn't help either, and was criticized as a player who didn't want to get into the dirty areas on the ice. Even his own teammates once said, quoting, "In my opinion, Kent was as good as the guy 200 miles north when he wanted to play." And that was the issue, when he wanted to play. He would attempt a comeback, having a brief stint in the 1994-95 season with the Edmonton Oilers, playing 6 games, scoring only 1 goal during that stretch. That being the last time he would step in the NHL ice, and was the last player in the NHL to have played with the Atlanta Flames. Looking back at what could have been, it makes you think he could have made the Hall of Fame if he had a longer career in the NHL. Though his career ended early, you could not forget his skill and talent when he played. He was arguably one of the best players during his time in the league. After failing as an expansion team in Kansas City, the team relocated to Colorado to be known as the Rockies, not to be confused with the current MLB team of the same name. The Rockies only lasted 6 seasons until being relocated again to become the New Jersey Devils. In those 6 years in the league, the Rockies never got more than 22 wins in an 80-game season and only made the preliminary round once. Joe Cirella was only a rookie when he played for the Rockies and was drafted 5th overall in the Rockies' last season. The defenseman would be part of teams that were some of the worst teams to have played on the ice, but it wasn't anything of his doing. Once they relocated to New Jersey, he continued to play with them and even made an All-Star appearance. His best season was also the same year where the New Jersey Devils would make the playoffs for the first time, being part of that underdog team that made it to the conference finals in 1988, but fell short to the Boston Bruins in Game 7. Unfortunately, luck did not follow after that season. After making a trip with the Quebec Nordiques, now with the New York Rangers, he would have some success statistically, but still fell short. A couple more stops and he would make his last appearance in the NHL with the Ottawa Senators in the 1995-96 season, making him the last player to have played with the Rockies. From my research, it was hard to find any information about him during his time playing hockey, but I did find that he was a tough fighter who racked up penalty minutes and could compete with the toughest players during that time. If there was more information that I missed about him, please let me know in the comments below. Before the Minnesota Wild, there were the Minnesota North Stars, founded in 1967 up until 1993. Throughout their time, they had their struggles on the ice, but they also shared some success, being the first team on this list to have made the Stanley Cup Finals, not only once, but twice. But a combination of poor attendance in their later years, a failure to reach a new deal on a new stadium, and on top of sexual harassment lawsuits against the owner at the time, caused a chain reaction of an inevitable relocation. Before that though, the North Stars were able to draft a player that would remain in the organization. Mike Modano, who was arguably the best American-born player, was drafted 1st overall with the North Stars in 1988. He was an instant success, being a finalist for the Rookie of the Year and getting the team into the finals in his 2nd year, totaling 20 points in the playoffs, but fell short to the Pittsburgh Penguins. He would average a little over 77 points during his first 4 years as a North Star until their relocation to Dallas, where in his first year scored 50 goals and tied his all-time high of 93 points. He remained a consistent 30 goal scorer and was roughly a 70-80 point player in the next 12 years and spent a total of 20 years with the North Star Stars franchise. In his time in Dallas, he would win a Stanley Cup, leading the team in points for both in the regular season and the playoffs. He would also be a finalist for both the Selke, being the best defensive forward, and the Lady Byng for most gentleman-like player. Mike Modano would become the last active North Star by the 2007-08 season, and he would continue to play until his last season with the Detroit Red Wings in 2011. At the end of his career, he played a total of 1,499 games with over 500 goals and over 1,300 points, ranking him 26th all-time. He is also first in points in the regular season and the playoffs by an American-born player. He had 1 Stanley Cup, 1 World Cup gold medal, and 1 silver in the Olympics. In 2014, he was inducted to the Hockey Hall of Fame and was also named in the NHL's 100 Greatest Players list by the NHL. The Quebec Nordiques relocation didn't come from any hardships or financial loss, as there was a passionate fan base to help sustain a franchise, and even when the team was at their worst, the fans still showed up. But the fears of unsustainability were arising during the late 1990s. A combination of a new age of rising player salaries and a weakening Canadian dollar, the Nordiques owner was worried that sustainability was going to be a problem. It also didn't help that the Nordiques were one of the smallest North American major league cities. After 24 years, the Nordiques were moved to Colorado to become the Avalanche. Adam Foote was selected 22nd overall by the Quebec Nordiques in the 1989 NHL entry draft, a defensive defenseman who played for a long time in the Avalanche. He wasn't a flashy player or a player who scored a lot of points, but was a very reliable, tough defenseman. Where he may not have showed on the scoreboard, he definitely showed when you watched him play, and is often noted by Avalanche fans as an underrated defenseman, similar to what a power forward would be but for defense. He always knew where to go and knew how to play the game. He would win 2 Stanley Cups while with the Avalanche. Afterwards, he would have a brief stint with the Columbus Blue Jackets after the NHL lockout and was the captain for the team for the 3 years he was there. In that final year with Columbus, he was traded back to the Colorado Avalanche, where he would remain for the rest of his time in the NHL. He was the last player to have played for the Quebec Nordiques once Joe Sakic retired in 2009. Foote would become the next captain of the Avalanche until his retirement in 2011, accumulating 308 points, 2 cups, and 1 Olympic gold medal as well. He is also placed 18th all-time in playoffs games played by a defenseman. What an impressive resume. He may not have produced a lot in his career, but he definitely made up for it by being one of the hardest and smartest players in his position. The original Winnipeg Jets franchise never had any major success while in the NHL, with their biggest problem being in the same division with their Alberta rivals, the Edmonton Oilers and the Calgary Flames, 2 teams that had players that were more talented, while the Jets were always seen as the third team to be stuck in the middle. The Jets franchise fell into the same victim as the Quebec Nordiques and eventually chose Phoenix, Arizona to be the final destination for their franchise to relocate to become the Phoenix Coyotes. The last player picked in the first round by the original Winnipeg Jets, Shane Doan would begin his career in 1995 and relocated with the Jets to Phoenix. During his first 4 years in the league, he struggled, scoring a total of only 22 goals and 62 points during that run. At that point of his career, Doan looked like he was going to be a top 10 bust. Little did people know though, he would become the second longest player to play in the NHL from his draft class and become a leader and contributor in the desert, surpassing his goals and dominating his points records with 51 points in his 5th year, and will remain a prominent 20-30 goal scorer and a 50-60 point player in the remaining seasons with the Coyotes. After future Hall of Famer Teemu Selanne retired in 2014, Shane Doan remained as the last member of the original Winnipeg Jets, remaining a member of the Coyotes until the very end of his career in 2017. He stayed with the team that struggled for their entire existence and showed his loyalty until the very end, with the closest they've gotten to Lord Stanley when they lost in the 3rd round in 2012. During his career, Doan led the Phoenix Coyotes in scoring in every season between 2003 to 2011, is the all-time points leader with the Coyotes, and ended his career with a total of 1,540 games, played all with the Winnipeg Jets and Coyotes franchise, which is third in most games played with one team in their entire career. He also won the King Clancy, which is a trophy awarded to the player who best exemplifies leadership qualities in 2010, and also the Mark Messier Leadership Award, which recognizes an individual as a superior leader within their sport in 2012, along with 2 gold and 3 silver medals in the World Championships representing Canada. There is a debate whether or not Shane Doan deserves to be in the Hockey Hall of Fame, with more people leaning towards him not, because he isn't on par with those superstars, as he wasn't known to be a dominant player on the ice, but others make an argument that he should as a player with longevity and leadership. Do you think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame? The Hartford Whalers were the last team from the WHA to be relocated, and during their existence, never made it past round 2. They were often considered one of the worst franchises in hockey during the stretch in their last decade in the league. A combination of ownership making poor decisions in ticket sales and attendance not being on par forced the owner to relocate to North Carolina, where they would become the Carolina Hurricanes. Introducing the first and only goalie on the list, Jean-Sebastian was drafted 13 overall by the Hartford Whalers. He, like many other players on this list, were drafted a year before the team would move to a new city. He would only play 1 year with the Hartford Whalers until their relocation. However, he was traded during the offseason to the Calgary Flames. On his new team, he would spend some time in the minor leagues to improve his goaltending, having a couple stints in the NHL. He didn't get his big break until he was traded to the Mighty Ducks in 2000. In 2003, he would record his first winning season and lead the Mighty Ducks into the playoffs. His performance is notable to be one of the greatest playoff performances ever seen by an NHL goaltender, and nearly single-handedly got the team to the Stanley Cup, winning the Conn Smythe Trophy, being the first player to win playoff MVP as the opposing team since 1987. He still remains as the last player to have won the playoff MVP as an opposing player. 3 years later, he would fulfill that dream. Now with a stacked team, he would win the finals and get the Stanley Cup. Once his tenure in Anaheim was done, he was traded to Toronto but didn't stay there for too long. His success in the regular season would soon decline as he spent his last 3 years in Colorado and retired in 2014, becoming the last Hartford Whaler to have skated in the NHL. Jean-Sebastian currently leads the Ducks franchise with the most wins by a goalie and is one of 5 players to have ever won the Conn Smythe as an opponent that lost in the finals. You may have noticed that the most recent franchise to have fallen hasn't been mentioned yet, and that's because there are still several players who are still active in the NHL. Well, tune in next time where we find out who are the remaining players of the Atlanta Thrashers. Hey there everyone, it's Exchange here at the end. I have no script to go off for this, but just wanted to say thank you so much for those who have made it this far. I hope you guys consider giving a like and subscribing. This was a video long in the making, and if you like and enjoy this kind of content, I also have more videos like this on my channel. If you want some more exclusive content, I also have a TikTok where I post there as well. A link will be in the description below. So with that, I hope to see you guys next time.